Hi everybody, so as you can see by the title, this is going to be how I'm going to choose to parent my children in the future when I eventually do have kids of my own, and it's quite controversial, so I just wanted to start off by saying that these are just my opinions, and whatever you choose to do as parents is completely up to you, and I will respect what you do with your children. This is just what I want to do with my children when I eventually have them in the future, and I thought by making this video it would be nice just to tag all you guys just to see what your views are on it too. And I would also like to see if my opinions on it change from now to when I actually do have children in the future. So yeah, so I don't know if I'm going to keep enable comments on this video or what, just because it is really controversial. But yeah, like I said, I respect you guys, so I'd like you guys to respect how I feel on these certain topics. So the first topic's pro-life, pro-choice. I am all for pro-life. I am completely against abortion under any circumstances, whether it's rape, whether your child's got a severe disability. If it's a circumstance of rape, I don't believe that it was the child's choice to be conceived. It's not the child's choice to be murdered. It's not the child's fault, so why should the child suffer? If the child's got a severe disability, I work with children with severe disabilities, children that can't talk, children that can't walk, children that can't orally eat food. They have to have their feeds through gastrostomy straight into their tummies through tubes. People that don't work with children with disabilities think, what kind of life do they have? Do you know what? These kids have amazing lives. They have the most brilliant lives ever, and that's because we provide them with an education that is suited around their needs. It's all about the individual child. These children don't suffer. These children are cared for all the time. These children are happy, because if you haven't worked with disabled children, you won't know how to communicate with them, but you can. If they can't, some of them can't see, some of them can't hear, some of them can't talk. Like, you would think it's completely impossible to communicate with them, but it's not. You get any little reaction is amazing, and they can understand you. They're more clever than you think. So to say you'll have an abortion because you've found out your child's got a severe disability, I don't even agree with that. So yeah, I'm completely 100% against abortion. If I was to find out I was pregnant now, I'm 20, I still live with my parents, I don't have a roof over its head, and I know a lot of people will think this is wrong, but I could still provide my child with quite a good life. I've got savings saved up, you know, I've got my education, I've got a job now, I'm earning good money, my boyfriend's earning good money, so I don't want to get pregnant now. I'm on contraception to stop it, but if all fails, then I would never abort. I'd just say I'm just completely against abortion. So the next topic is adoption, which leads on really nicely from the last one. I would much rather someone get their child adopted and go through their pregnancy rather than getting their child aborted. 100%. I am so for adoption. I think to be able to give a couple a child who aren't able to have children is just amazing. To be able to give a child a home who would have had a horrible life with people that didn't want the child, to be able to give that child a life a home with loving parents is amazing. Amazing. My auntie was adopted and my grandparents loved her so much, just like their own. She was their own, you know. I'm all for adoption. I think it's brilliant, amazing. So yeah, I think for couples that can't have children of their own, I think it's actually disrespectful sometimes to have an abortion, because you think of those people that can't have children, how upset they would be thinking of someone aborting a child when they so long to have a child of their own and can't conceive a child. That's just my opinion on it. Please don't judge me. Like I said, I respect your views on all of these topics. But yeah, all for adoption, totally against abortion. So this topic I won't really call controversial, because what you choose to do with your baby in this circumstance is really up to you, and it's not really something that people would frown upon, I don't think. But it's baby wearing, and so that's carrying your baby around in a sling and stuff. I'm all for it, 100% for it, because you're having such a nice bonding experience with your child. You can comfort your child as well as getting on with the jobs you need to do. There's been research done on it, and I watched a programme on it about how children that are carried in slings pick up life skills quicker because they see their parents doing it. So for example, if mum had baby in a sling and she was preparing dinner, the baby would be watching her preparing dinner. And I don't know the exact facts and figures on it, but it's said that children that are born in slings can sometimes develop quicker. But yeah, if you just look up information on that, then it's actually really interesting, because the program I watched on TV was about comparing parents that do wear the children in slings to parents that practice other methods with their children. So yeah, really interesting, all for baby wearing. So this topic is extremely controversial, but these are just my opinions on it, so please respect them. So smacking. I would only ever smack my child if their life was at risk, or if my child was putting themselves in extreme danger. So an example of that would be if my child was to run out in front of a busy road and could potentially die, then yeah, I would give them a firm tap on their hand, not on their bottom, on their hand, just so it's a quick, straightforward message across to them that that is not acceptable, and that, you know, I would want them to be in shock, because that is serious. Another example would be if my child was to stick their fingers in a plug socket. Obviously I would have protectors all around my house to childproof my house, but yeah, that would be another example. Firm tap, quick message, and that's it. Other than that, I'm completely against smacking. I think there's a lot more practical and efficient ways to teach your child from what is right to what is wrong. I think the timeout method is amazing. I've seen people do it and I've seen it work. As long as you're persistent with it and you carry through, then it is a very effective way of teaching your children. I watch a girl called Jessica, and her channel's Gabe and Jess, and she's a young mum, and she's got a 2-year-old and twins who I think are 8 months, I'm not sure, and she's my age, and I loved bits. I watch her channel all the time, but she made a really good point. Smacking your children only makes them fear you. It doesn't teach them that what they're doing is wrong. It just makes them think, oh, mummy's just smacked me, you know, that's not good. But Well, if you actually sit them in timeout, you give them 3 warnings. On the first warning, you say to them, no, you shouldn't be doing that. On the second warning, you should be saying, no, you shouldn't be doing that. If you do it again, you'll be in timeout. On the third warning, if they do it a third time, they go straight to timeout. They go in timeout for however many minutes, for however many years of their life they've been alive. So if the child's 3, they'll go in timeout for 3 minutes. When you put the child in timeout, you say to them, you're in timeout because blah 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 blah, you will sit here for 3 minutes. Then while the child's in timeout, if they get out of timeout, you just pick them up and put them back in. No eye contact, no talking to them, nothing. And then once they've completed their timeout, you go up to them and ask them why they think they're in timeout, and explain to them that they shouldn't be doing that again. And then you ask for an apology, you give them a hug, and you tell them you love them. And as long as you are persistent with the timeout method, I think it works. I don't think there's any need for physical punishment. That is just my views on it. So the next topic is what kind of education you want to give your child, whether it's private schools, state schools or homeschooling. I personally, if I had the money for it, I would be all for private schools. I've heard that some children can come out with a better education, not necessarily all the time, but they can come out with a better education. They mix with different types of people. That's just how I'd want my child to be educated. If I couldn't afford it, then yeah, I have nothing against state schools. I would send them to a state school. If you guys don't understand what state means, like mainstream schools, like, yeah, it's mainstream schools that aren't private. Don't know how to describe it, yeah, just mainstream schools. I'd send them to a mainstream school. I have nothing against it. I'd just preferably send them to a private school. My views on homeschooling, I really like the idea that you'll be in control of your child's education, but I don't think that I'm equipped to be able to teach my children things that they would learn at school. I'd love to homeschool the kids. You get to spend time with them more. Like I said, you'll be in control of their education. You can be in control of what they're learning. But I also think that children need the opportunity to mix with other children of their age and to develop other skills like social skills, which they wouldn't necessarily gain if they were being homeschooled. So yeah, I'm not against homeschooling. I'm not actually against any type of schooling, so private, state or homeschooling. I'm all for them all really, but if I could choose one of them, I would private school my children. So the next topic is vaccinations. I'm all for vaccinations. I know that some people say that you can get lots of side effects from vaccinations, and so they therefore don't vaccinate their children. But my views on it are the outcome of not vaccinating your children and for them to develop a disease is a lot more significant and fatal than if they were to develop a side effect from having the vaccination. So yeah, side effect, disease. I haven't done research into it, but so I would do some research into it before I completely decided on vaccinating my children in the future. But right now I would say I would vaccinate, because I'd much rather them have a side effect than to develop a fatal disease. So yeah, that's my views on vaccination. Okay, so the next one's medicines. It's about medicating your children if they're in need of medicines. I think it depends on how ill your child is and what is wrong with your child. I personally don't like to take medication unless it's my last resort, unless I really, really have to. Like if I've got a headache or I'm in pain or something, I would try everything before taking painkillers. I don't like putting chemicals inside myself, so why would I put chemicals inside my children? Like I said, I'd use them as a last resort, but if my child is in pain, serious pain or discomfort, then yeah, I would give them medicine, because I would hate to see my child go through that. The medicines are put on this planet for a reason. They've been tested by scientists, and they wouldn't be on the market if, or behind counters in pharmacies, if they weren't safe to use. However, I do think that natural ways are a lot better than putting chemicals in you, so medicines would be my last resort. So yeah, that's just my views on it. I think this controversial parenting tag originated in America, because the next topic isn't really something that people here in the UK, well, at least I don't think, comes up regularly, and that's circumcision. I know it's part of some religions, and if that's part of your religion, then fine, go ahead. That's what you believe in, so that's what you should do. But in America, I think in some states, as soon as your little baby boy is born, they ask you if you want your child circumcised, and that's the norm in America, in some places in America. I also watch another girl who thought that was the normal thing to do, so that's why she got her son circumcised, but she highly regrets it now, because she's done research into it, and her son is now suffering because of it, and she completely regrets her actions. I'm not going to say names, but yeah, I would choose not to circumcise my child. It's not even something I would think about doing. I just wouldn't, full stop, circumcise my child. I think things like this should be left up to the child when they're older, and it should be their choice whether they should remove part of their body or not. I don't think it should be the parent's choice to do that. You're removing such a big part of their body. There's so many nerve endings. It can cause so many issues later on in life. I don't think being circumcised for cosmetic reasons is a good reason. It's been proven that men who don't have their foreskin are just as clean as men who do, as long as you wash in the right ways. You know, it doesn't make you any more clean. That's your opinion if you think it looks better or not. You know, this is going into too much detail now for my YouTube channel, but I just would not circumcise my child. The next topic is baby piercing. Some people compare baby piercing to circumcision. I don't think it's comparable. I really, really don't. Circumcision is removing a part of a child's body, and you can't reverse it. Once it's done, it's done. You can't put it back. Do you know what I mean? So baby piercing is completely different. It's putting a hole in a place where there's hardly any nerve endings, compared to down there where there's thousands of endings that you could damage. So it's not comparable, I don't think. Also, if you pierce your child's ears, the holes can close up, you know. But again, I believe that this choice should be left up until the child is old enough to make the decision on their own. I don't think that you should pierce your child's ears, because how do you know your child wants their ears pierced when they're older? You don't. And also, I don't personally like what it looks like on young children. I don't like the look of it. I don't think it looks natural for a young child to have pieces of metal hanging out of their ears. Sorry, that's my phone. Yeah, jewellery is for older people. I don't think it looks right on children, so I personally wouldn't pierce my baby girl's ears if I was to have a little girl in the future. So the next topic is breast versus formula feeding. As everyone has probably heard, breast is best, and I think that everyone should at least try breastfeeding. I know that some people in the end can't breastfeed because of many different reasons. My mum couldn't breastfeed me because it was extremely painful for her, but I give her a thumbs up because I know she tried. Even if some women can't breastfeed, maybe even just pumping or something like that, so your child's getting even just 1 bottle of breast milk a day. It's so good for your baby. It's so good for their immune system, especially when your milk first comes in and the colostrum in your milk. That's so good for boosting your child's immune system. So I think all parents should try to breastfeed. If they can't, they can't. That's fair enough, and that's what formula's there for. But I'm all for breastfeeding. I'm not against formula feeding at all, because if you want to formula feed, that's absolutely fine. Children are just as healthy sometimes if they're formula fed. So yeah, I would just like to breastfeed my child if I could in the future when I eventually do have children. So this topic is about co-sleeping. If you've never heard that term before, it's where you sleep with your baby or child in the same bed as you. I love the idea of co-sleeping. I like the idea of how close you are to your child, that how much you'll bond with your baby, having it with you all the time. You'll be able to keep an eye on your child more than if they were in a cot, I guess. But I do, however, think it can be unsafe at times. If you're a heavy sleeper, you could roll over and smother your baby, you know. I do think in some cases it can be extremely dangerous and unsafe for your baby, and you would potentially be putting your child's life at risk. However, in my situation, I can get woken up. My door, when you shut it, doesn't click into place. It literally just swings open. Like, I can't explain it, but the bit where it clicks into place is broken, so it doesn't click. Even if someone opens my door, which makes no noise at all when you open it, I will wake up. That's how much of a light sleeper I am. So if my child was to even hiccup in their sleep, then I would be awake straight away. So yeah, I just think in some cases it can be dangerous, like if you're a heavy sleeper. So right now I don't really want to say my views on it, because I do like the idea of it and I would like to try it out, but at the same time I do think it's quite dangerous. So until I have a child, I don't think I want to put my views forward on that certain topic. So yeah. The next topic is cloth versus disposable nappies. I love the idea of cloth nappies. It's much more environmentally friendly and cost efficient. So that is brilliant. Because of those two reasons, I would love to put cloth nappies on my babies when I have them in the future. Although I can't see it happening, and I know that's terrible, but I really can't see it happening just because of time and effort, and I can see it all being very lazy, and just for easiness I would probably use disposable nappies. And I know that's really bad, but yeah, I would like to try cloth nappies though, and I'm all for both. I'm not against either, so yeah. Okay, so the last topic, guys, is the cry out method. If none of you guys have heard of this term before, that's where you put your child in its cot or wherever they sleep and let them cry and self-soothe. I believe in this method if this method is done correctly. I don't think it's right if you put your baby in its cot and you let them scream bloody murder. I don't believe that's right. You shouldn't let your child scream until they're nearly throwing up or crying themselves to sleep. There's crying and then his crying hysterically. I don't think you should let your child get to that point, because you're putting your child in a situation they've never been in before without any kind of reassurance. And imagine going into a situation that you've never been in before and going it alone with no support behind you. That's what your baby will be going through if you leave them to cry hysterically. I don't think that's right. However, if you do it correctly, if you put your baby in its cot and it cries, you go back in after a minute, say everything's okay, you're fine, you're safe, I'm here, go out, go back in after 2 minutes, after 3 minutes, after 4 minutes, after 5 minutes, and just add a minute on every time. But at least you're still reassuring your child that you are there, that they are okay, they are safe, nothing's going to happen to them, that you are there for them. So you can go through the experience with them so that it's not completely alien to them and they don't have to do it by themselves. Then yeah, I believe the cry out method does work if you're persistent with it and you do it every night, and you don't decide one night, oh yeah, you can come into bed with me, and the next night you do the cry out method, then the next night they get into bed with you. As long as you do it every night and you use the same method every night, I do believe it can work. And I've seen it work, but I just think it should be done in the right ways. So that's the end of my controversial parenting video and how I would like to raise my kids when I eventually do have children in the future. Sorry, I've spoken so much, my throat has gone dry. Again, I would like to state, these are just my opinions. You are entitled to your opinions. I will respect your opinions, so please respect mine. You as a parent have the right to choose what you do for your individual family, for your child. This is just what I would like to do for my children when I eventually have them. So can everybody respect each other and respect each other's views on how to raise their children? And yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. Bye!